Okay, so I've got a perspective view set up here that I've been using to export to 3ds Max. But now I'm going to set up an animation just so that I can get something quickly out of Revit without having to use 3ds Max. And so it's really easy using Revit to create a walkthrough. The limitation with Revit is that you can't have moving objects, and also controlling the camera is a little bit more awkward than in a full 3D program like 3ds Max, but it's still, it does give you some pretty good options. So you can see when you click on the little down arrow next to the house there that you have the option there to choose a walkthrough, or you can go to the View tab and under 3D Views there choose Walkthrough, same thing. And so all you need to do initially is decide where your camera is going to move. So here I might want it to follow around this bar area. So I'm going to start over here, and then click some points where my camera needs to move. And then I might finish up at the base of the stairs. So I've done all the points I want. So you can either press escape to cancel or click on finish walkthrough on the ribbon, and that completes the path. So you can see there it's a little bit wonky. I'll come back and adjust that in a minute. But I just want to show you how it looks initially. And so while that's still selected, I can choose edit walkthrough. Or if you've deselected it, you can always find it again in the project browser. It'll add a new category called walkthroughs, and you can just double click on it there to open it. So it's showing me there where it finishes. On the ribbon up there you can see I've got the option to choose edit walkthrough, and then using the buttons on the top you can go back either frame by frame or usually go by keyframes. So the keyframes are the points I clicked to place the camera. So I'm just going to go back through each. And now click play, which you can see again in that group of buttons on the right. And that'll run through. Okay, so a little wonky, but I'll fix that in a minute.
And then you can spell out how to finish program, yeah?
Well, yeah, you can. It's a bit difficult with Revit though to get so if you want it rendered, it's difficult. But you can definitely export views like this or shaded. So you can see here if I turn or set the shaded or the visual style to shaded. But that's right. So it'll play through, but a little bit slower because it's using the graphics capabilities and the hardware of your computer. And if you've ever wondered why people spend a lot of money on graphics cards and things like that for their computers, it's mainly to do things like this. So it runs faster. If I go to realistic, you'll see then I can see the textures, but it'll be slower still. Not because the animation's changed speed, it's the same speed regardless when we export it, but this is as fast as the computer can generate those frames. So another option that I wanted to show you is to turn on lights in a viewport, which a lot of people don't realise you can do. If you go to graphic display options on the top of that button with your visual styles, you'll see that if you expand lighting, you can set it to, say, interior artificial only. And then I'm just going to press apply so that I can see it and then still make some adjustments. So this will do real-time lighting in Revit. And this way you can demonstrate your lighting without doing a full render. So there we are. So I've got lighting in the viewport. I can increase the ambient light there. It's not really having a great effect. But then the exposure here as well, if I go to manual, you can use to maybe brighten that up. There we go, so that went the wrong way.
Does that only work if you've done your sample, or is that just a one-off?
No, this works without the sun, so I've actually set it to artificial only, so it's not using the sun at all. So that can give you a good display for especially things like animation, so you can still work in shaded mode and not have to render. So if I play this now though, so notice I don't have the play button anymore. You've got to select the border and then you get edit walkthrough, and then clicking play, it's really slow. But still much faster than rendering. So remember I was saying it can be 10 minutes a frame. Here you can see it's up to frame 40 already, so it's less than a second a frame. And that's going to still give you a very fast output. So I'm going to press escape because I don't want to wait for all of that to finish. So I just want to show you that option. I'm going to set it back in graphic display options to the initial settings under lighting. I'm going to change the scheme back to interior sun only, and then turn photographic exposure back to automatic, apply, and it's back to the way it was. So again, to get the play button back, I can select that, edit walkthrough on the ribbon, and then press play. So now I just want to show you how you can adjust the path of that animation. So I'm going to say yes to finish. I pressed escape to cancel, just to stop it doing the playback. And now I'm going to go to level 1, where you can see the walkthrough. If it's not visible, you can always find it in the project browser again, and then right click on the name, and just like a camera, choose show camera. So there's my path. And now if I choose edit walkthrough with this view open, I get those same buttons to play, but it's going to show the camera moving along the path there. So it's playing it, but in the plan view. Press escape and finish that. And so I want to adjust that path. You can see again it's a little bit wonky here. So I'm going to change it on the options bar there from active camera to path. And so with that option you can adjust those nodes. Oops. Okay, so just back to path. Sometimes it's got to make sure you select it properly. Okay, so it's a little smoother now. And then I also want to change the direction the camera's looking. So the camera's looking straight ahead by default. It just looks in the direction of your path. But I really want to be looking more towards the path. So I'm going to change this option back to active camera. And then you can see the camera there is on the first frame. So I can drag that target, you can see this coming out from the camera, and notice it's got the field of view there which gives you a pretty good guide to show you what you're going to see. And then I'm going to go to the next keyframe next to the play button there. So it goes to the next node, and again I can adjust the camera direction there, and again next keyframe and bring it around. So you usually need to adjust the camera direction because by default it is going to be just looking straight ahead, and you often want to be looking somewhere else. Well, actually that one's not too bad. So bring back through, I can see that's still going to be fairly smooth hopefully. But to see the view again, now I can just choose open walkthrough, which takes me back to the perspective view with the animation. Press play. And you can see now that's, I think, definitely a better outcome. And so to record that and create a file that you can send to someone else or you can use in a presentation, you then just need to export that. So as I've been saying, rendering animation with Revit is, well, I'm going to say difficult, but in reality I think it's almost unfeasible just because it would take so long. This is, if you select that border, you'll see, again, once I choose Edit Walkthrough, this is 300 frames. So it is 10 seconds. And actually I should have mentioned as well, the way you set the length of your animation is by counting frames. And here it's actually set to 15 frames a second, which is going to be 20 seconds of animation. But not as smooth as what you'd normally use these days, that's 30 frames a second. So
Sorry, if I want, could I render that?
you can. So I'll show you how you do it if you want to. So I'm going to change the frames per second to 30. It won't make it play back any faster within Revit, but when I export it, it will be faster. And so the way you export the shaded view or render it is the same. You need to go to the main menu and then export, and then you'll find at the bottom images and animation. And then choose walkthrough. And then you've got a few options. So you can set the visual style here, and that determines how it exports. So you can export with any of those view types that you'd be used to, hidden lines, shaded, and so on. Realistic with edges is pretty good. Rendering is going to go through and render each frame, and it would take, well, I've got it on pretty low quality, so it might take 5 minutes a frame, but it wouldn't look very good. And so that would be 25 hours, so the whole day rendering. Which I know sounds like a long time, but I mean, just to give you an idea, when I started doing 3D rendering, it would take sometimes more than a day just to do a single image. And so things have improved a lot. Now you can do 300 frames in the time that you could do one. So things are getting faster all the time, and I have a little render farm of my own at home or in my home office that that does render much faster than you will on these computers. So
Could you use the cloud to render that?
no, you can't render animation on the cloud as yet. Well, actually, sorry, with the new version of 3ds Max, you can. So you might have noticed in the version of 3ds Max we're using, you can't render to the cloud. But if you've had a look at 2016, you can. And it's much better, it's got much better cloud rendering options than Revit does. Anyhow, here I can set it to realistic with edges, and then you've got the resolution, and that's really the main determinant of quality. So that's very low, 568 by 426. But I'll leave it on that, just so you know, it's low resolution. Just want to show you what that's going to look like. We'll go through fairly quickly, and you can see there it's got the time, 300 frames, equates to 10 seconds at 30 frames a second. So I'll click OK. It's going to ask me for a file name. And then I'm going to export to something I wouldn't normally, and that's an animation file. So I'm sure you'd all be used to working with animation files. Is there anyone who doesn't download movies? So AVIs, MP4s, what are the others? MOVs, there are dozens of them. They're standard animation formats for video files. When you look at the others here, you can see they're all image files, single image files. So JPEGs, TIFFs, bitmaps, GIFs, PNGs. And normally you would render to those, and so you'll get an image for each frame. So you'd end up with 300 images. And then you put those together with the video editing programs I've been talking to you about. And it's really easy. It sounds complicated, but it's simple. Those programs are set up to do that. You open them, you open one of the files, and they automatically look for the numbers of the associated image files and put it all together for you. And that's better because if something goes wrong, you don't need to start it again from the beginning. Or if you realise you need to change something, you don't need to render all of it again, you just render the frames where you have a change. So it's much better to render that way when you're rendering animation. But again, I'm going to do it directly to a video file because I can, and with a quick animation, that's not so bad. Now, you get an option asking for video compression. There, just choose the first one, Microsoft Video 1. Make sure you don't choose uncompressed, whatever you do. Okay, so Microsoft Video 1, leave the compression quality on 100%, and when you click OK, it'll go through. Notice it's a little bit slower than playing through this in real time, because as well as playing through the realistic shaded view on the screen, it has to, of course, write that each frame to the file. So it's a little bit more work for the hardware of the computer. So it does take slightly longer, but you can see it's already on 12-13%, and we'll finish that fairly quickly. And so that again is low res. If I increase the resolution, it won't increase the time all that much, but it will be a little slower. Okay, so you do all know what I mean when I'm talking about video formats and how you work with them. It's something I think most people, even my mum, uses those all the time. And so then you'd know video players. Do you know any video editing programs or video media players? Yeah, quite a few, yeah. So what's the most common, aside from media player, do you know what the most common one? VLC, is that? Yeah, VLC. Okay, so you can see there, my railings are not matching, and I'd need to fix that, but I'll do that afterwards. Just want to show you the video file now. So in the folder here, notice I've rendered to a local folder, in other words, one on this computer, because rendering over a network can be a little slow. So there we are. So we've got VLC set as the default media player in here. So don't be worried if you open it and that comes up. When you're doing this at home, you might not have VLC, and so different media players will play things differently. I actually don't mind media player, the Windows one, but it sometimes will create problems when you play these files. Here it's worked okay, but I've seen sometimes people have issues and it will look just totally wrong. So don't be surprised if sometimes the media player that you're using creates problems with the playback. And so it's not a bad option to get VLC, which is the one that I'm playing back with there. Sorry? Yeah, so increase the resolution. Yeah. So again, VLC is a free download. If you don't have it already, it's almost an essential program on any computer, I think. So yes, I'll do it again, but with better quality. So again, on the main menu, export. I have to scroll down to the bottom, images and animation, and then walkthrough. And then here, I'll double that resolution, or a bit more than double. So I'm going to make it 1200 by 900. It's important then that you don't click onto the box down below. If you click there, it'll set it back to 100%, which is using the previous dimensions. So again, 1200 by 900 is okay. Do you know what HD resolution is? You don't be staring at it every day.
20 something.
No, 720. That's not HD. Well, that's not full HD. So full HD is 1920 by 1080. So any TV you buy these days will be full HD, and so you can set that resolution if you like. So 1920 by, well, ends up being 1440. So maybe I might say, well, because it's not in the same proportions as full HD, I'll make this one 1080 and then have that a bit lower. So 1440, that's okay. It's all to do with the proportions of that image. So that's okay, and I'm just going to click OK and change the file name. And again, set the image compressor to Microsoft Video 1. Click OK. And you can see it's not much slower. It is a little slower, but not by much. So while that's happening, I'll just talk to you about some other things you can do. You can change the height of your camera just as easily as changing it in plan. So you saw before I used the path option to change the path in plan, and yeah, sure. So to change the path in elevation, use exactly the same steps, but go into a section on elevation view, and then you can lift the path up or down to change the height of your camera if you want to go upstairs or a ramp. And then you can also change the height or the direction that you're looking using the same technique. So with the active camera option, you can change the direction of the target just by dragging up or down in the same way I adjusted the target direction of the camera in plan. Now, be careful. It sometimes makes sense to go upstairs and ramps, but if they're narrow staircases where you can't see very much, they're sometimes awkward views, and it's sometimes better instead to have a view of one level and then stitch that together with a view of another level, rather than trying to walk through your whole building and go through the stairs and then see your next level. And so that's a common mistake people make when they're making animation, trying to show everything in one and getting these walkthroughs that what they used to call them. Anyway, things are just far too long and give you dizzy spells because you are wandering, around here, there, and everywhere. So I'll just remind you, have a look at the animations that have been done professionally by people like Alex Roman, and and you'll see if you count how long it is in each shot, they're quite short. So okay, so just while that's going, I can play this. Okay, so he's got moving lights and other things that you can't do, and depth of field changing. But again, just count how long each of those shots are. There wouldn't be one that's more than a few seconds. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So they're all less than 5 seconds. And that's standard with animation and cinematography generally. So if you watch some films and TV and things that you've been watching probably for your whole life and just analyse them, that's right. Well, yeah, any of those, any film, you'll see that the shots are very short, and that was partly because the film reels were quite short, so they were limited in that way. I think about 10-15 minutes was the maximum shot they could do anyway. But it just becomes difficult to look at if they're too long. So again, it's much better usually to have lots of short animations rather than a big long one that tries to go through your whole project.
Yeah, but let's see if you have a building and then you want to have walk to like level 1 but then next level 2
Yeah.
in one frame. Can you do that?
Yeah, well then you need to use those video editing programs.
Also, then you
That's how you stitch them together. That's fine. That's why I showed them to you in the beginning.
Yeah, okay.
And they're not as difficult to use as you might think. They're pretty intuitive, so you can see how much better the quality is there. So that's one option. Use a video editing program and you've got complete freedom to join your animations together and have transitions between them and really just do as much as you can imagine. So?
That's how that is.
Of course. Everyone who does animation professionally uses video editing programs as much as the 3D programs, and then that's a common misconception, thinking that you've got to render it all out from the 3D package and spend your whole life rendering, when really you do a lot of it the same way filmmakers do in 2D with the animation file in a video editing suite. So one little thing I'll just show you though to finish off there, because you, assuming at the moment, wouldn't have spent a long time with the video editing programs, an easier way of stitching together a series of animation is just to use PowerPoint. I'm sure you can all use PowerPoint. It's one of the easiest programs to use. And you can insert animation into PowerPoint files really easily. If I can find the button for that, here you go, video, and then video on my PC. And so I'll just find that file I created. There we go. Okay, so that can be set to play automatically. Let's just let it finish its updating. And so this would be a really easy way of doing your presentations next week, because again you can really easily insert anything you want into PowerPoint. And so I'm just going to go into the playback options there and make sure it's set to play automatically. And I'll set it to play full screen, drag that slide to be second, go back to the first slide, and there I might just insert a still image. So if you haven't used PowerPoint very much, it again is extremely easy. There's almost no learning curve. Okay, so I've just put a still image onto the first slide there. And I'm going to also set my slideshow options to have it playing continuously, and then my transitions as well to advance automatically after 3 seconds. I'll make this fairly fast. And then, yeah, this one is going to just play with the animation. So I'll play that slideshow now. To maximise it, so using the button down here, you can start the slideshow. 2, 3, and then straight into the animation. And so you can easily string together a series of animations that way. And there we go. So there, I'm going to just turn on the option to advance automatically for the animation and set that to a value. And just show you something that can happen with PowerPoint to finish up. So it's on 3 seconds there, but then notice that the animation slide is going as long as the animation file. So it used to be a problem with PowerPoint. You had to set the slide length to the length of the animation, but now it should automatically pick up your animation length and play that. So a really easy thing to set up, and you can have your plans and other things on slides as well, and maybe think about doing nicer transitions as well. So with a fade or something like that, and here maybe Whoops. A black background might be better. So that should have faded. Did I not set that to all slides? So fade and apply to all. There we go. That's better.
This is copper then?
Sorry?
The material is copper?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Copper bronze, yeah. Okay, so really easy. So I'll finish the video there.